car crash cases, defective products, dangerous drugs, injuries, and abuse. Across the state of Alabama, the attorneys, proudly sponsored by the law firm of Hollis, Wright, are here to serve you. Your tough legal questions answered by our experts. The attorneys with Josh Wright from the law firm of Hollis, Wright, and host David Lamb.
Hello and welcome into the attorneys. We appreciate you being with us tonight. For the next half hour, we've got a panel of experts assembled ready to answer your questions. For that system to work, you got to get in touch with us. Call, text, email, all throughout the program. You'll see that information on the bottom of the screen. Also, there's an attorney standing by right now to speak with you. So how often do you get the opportunity to get some live, legal, some free advice? So take advantage of that. Just call that number there on your screen. Leading our conversation tonight from the firm of Hollis, Wright is Carter Clay. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you, David. I hope you're doing well.
Doing well. How about you?
Well, I'm doing great. Tractor-trailer accidents, they occur all too frequently on our roads still in society. We've made a lot of strides over the last several years to improve the safety and lessen the number of accidents, but right now statistics still show there are about 500,000 motor vehicle accidents throughout the United States on an annual basis involving tractor-trailer rigs, and about 5,000 fatalities and many more injuries arising from those same accidents. So it's still a significant problem that plagues our society, but one of the things that I always like to do is indicate early on in a show like this that this is not a show to be critical or bash truck drivers. There are a lot of fantastic tractor-trailer drivers out there on the roadways doing it the right way, complying with the laws that apply to them. But just like any other individual who drives, accidents do happen, whether you're driving a tractor-trailer or a small passenger automobile. But the reason that tractor-trailer accidents get highlighted so much is because of the devastation that can be caused by them because of the force that they bring to an accident, right. Because they are the biggest rigs out there on the roadway, and so a lot of catastrophic injuries and deaths result from those incidents. We're very fortunate tonight to have a young lawyer in our office named John Spade with us. John is an outstanding young attorney. He does a great job representing clients at our law firm, and we're glad to have you here tonight. It's our privilege to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself, John.
Well, thank you for the kind introduction, Carter. I've been with the firm here for a few months now, and I'm fortunate to do a wide variety of stuff for the firm, a little bit of product defects, primarily pharmaceutical and drug litigation, as well as very serious injury and wrongful death cases, including premises liability, and of course, car accidents and truck accidents.
In general, I guess sort of broad overview, do truck drivers, are they controlled or regulated by additional or different standards or rules than you and I driving automobiles?
Absolutely. Now, of course, they do have to comply with the same regulations or rules that you or I are going to have to comply with, the state standards, the state rules of the road, if you will. But in addition to and over and above those state standards or state rules, there's also the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration has promulgated a number of federal regulations which create kind of a heightened or a higher safety standard that truck drivers have to abide by, in addition to the state regulations that everybody driving a motor vehicle on the road have to abide by.
Yeah, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration and the Motor Carrier Safety Act, they are very detailed and very specific regulations that are unique and apply to truck drivers, and there are a whole host of rules and regulations that truck drivers and their employers have to follow relative to them driving across the country and transporting goods. And one of the initial basic sort of requirements is that you have to have a commercial driver's license, which is referred to as a CDL, to even be able to operate a big rig, correct?
Correct, that is right. Yeah, there's a number of special responsibilities that drivers have to do over and above what a normal driver in an automobile might have to comply with when they're driving down the road. CDL is definitely one of them.
Yeah, and part of the CDL process and part of working for a trucking company would involve training. In addition to the CDL license, they have to go through training. They have driver's courses that tractor-trailer drivers have to go through to sort of get pre-qualified to do those things. But John, what I wanted to ask you is, once they get a commercial driver's license and once they're operating a tractor-trailer rig, what are some of the ongoing requirements that drivers have to go through in order to be able to maintain that license and be able to drive?
Well, first, before a truck driver will even be able to, have that CDL, initially they have to go through a pretty strenuous background check at the front end. And then after they are issued that CDL, that commercial driver's license, then there are various physical requirements that they have to meet that are ongoing. And then there's a number of different, regulations that are in place to make sure that they are, on top of, their training and any requirements that they need so that they can fully comply with all the federal regulations out there.
And as I understand it, they have to demonstrate on an annual basis that they're physically fit to drive.
Correct.
They have to undergo, I think, some vision testing to make sure that they can see well enough, which obviously would be important if you're going to drive a tractor trailer, among other things as well, correct?
That is right. Absolutely correct.
A couple of questions we have here. How long do I have to file a lawsuit if I'm hurt in a trucking accident?
If you're hurt in a trucking accident, you have 2 years from the date of the accident to file that lawsuit. And that 2 years is what's called the Statute of Limitations. So after that 2 years from the day of the accident runs, your claim will be forever barred. So that's a very significant time to keep in the back of your mind if you are ever in a tractor trailer accident.
All right,
I was just going to add to that, one important note to that is that Alabama has a 2-year statute of limitations, but the statute of limitations is going to be unique to the state in which the accident occurred in. For instance, Tennessee has a 1-year statute of limitations, Kentucky has a 1-year statute of limitations, and so you need to know, obviously, the statute of limitations for the state in which the accident occurred.
Right. Another question here. Are trucking companies supposed to carry insurance for accidents?
Yes, and it kind of depends on the property that the truck might be carrying, but at a minimum, every trucking company is required to carry $750,000 in coverage. Okay. And as I said previously, it can depend, and that number can go up depending on what property the truck is hauling across the road. For instance, it could be as much as $5 million in coverage if there's hazardous materials, or if there's a passenger transportation, they're transporting 6 to 16 passengers, that number of liability coverage could go up as well. But at a minimum, at least in the state of Alabama, it's $750,000 in coverage.
And Carter, to you, are trucking companies held liable for the actions of their drivers?
Well, it depends on whether or not they are an actual employee of the company. A lot of these truck drivers out there are independent owner-operators, right, where they are essentially independent contractors driving for either one or multiple companies transporting goods. Right. But that area of the law is a little bit murky in that you can't just have somebody sign an independent contractor agreement and therefore under all situations they're an independent contractor. The law looks deeper than that. Right. The law is going to look at whether or not the entity that you're driving for controls the manner, methods, and means by which they perform their driving task or responsibilities. And if you've got an entity that does control the manner, methods, and means by which they're driving and directs when they go, where they go, how they do it, rules and regulations they have to comply with, they can still be considered an employee of the company. And if they're an employee of the company, right, then yes, the employer can be held vicariously liable in those situations.
Okay. And another question, why do you think it's so, you've kind of touched on this, but want to make sure we make this point, versus just a regular car accident? Why is it important to quickly get some sort of legal advice when it comes to trucking accidents? Well,
unique to a trucking accident as to just a regular automobile accident are these trucking companies have immediate response teams in place. So whenever an accident does occur, there's a group of individuals that will go to the scene, start taking statements from witnesses, start taking photos of the scene, talking to police officers and gathering evidence. So in a trucking accident versus an automobile accident, it's especially important that you have somebody on your side sooner rather than later, right, because there's already this mechanism in place from the trucking companies with these immediate response teams to start gathering evidence quicker So to preserve, your rights and to preserve the evidence in a fair way, it's important to get somebody involved sooner rather than later.
Right. We have to step aside for a break. As we do so, a reminder of how you can join the conversation. You can call, text, email. Would love to hear from you. Stay tuned. More of The Attorneys coming right up.
I'm Carter Clay with the law firm of Hollis, Wright. Thanks for watching The Attorneys on WVTM 13. Now we hope you, a friend, or a loved one never need legal counsel for a case. But if you do, the goal of this show is simple: to provide answers and legal counsel when you need it the most. Your call to the show is free, so if you have questions specific to this show or related to other specific legal matters, call, email, or text us to talk with one of our lawyers. You can also follow us on Facebook or Twitter to learn about important legal news that could affect you or your family member. Or simply contact us by going to WVTM13.com and click on the Attorneys link. Now we know your time is valuable, so thank you for spending it with us and for watching The Attorneys right here on WVTM 13.
Welcome back into The Attorneys. Would love to have you join our conversation tonight. Call, text, email. That information you'll see on your screen throughout the program. Also a reminder, a live attorney standing by to take your call right now. As we went to break, we were talking about the importance of a timely response and being timely and getting in touch with an attorney. Any real world examples of why timeliness has proven to be a great advantage?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to expand upon that a little bit because of the importance involved in that area. I recently resolved a case involving 4 tractor trailers, and we got involved around 30 or 45 days after the incident occurred. My client was in the hospital for 3 or 4 weeks. As he recovered, he was able to get back on his feet and retain counsel. But what we learned in the course of the litigation is that 2 of the trucking companies had dispatched their internal accident response team and had an accident reconstruction and engineers on the scene the day of the incident, gathering information, looking at skid marks, taking measurements, taking photographs. The day of the accident. The accident happened at 5 a.m. and by that afternoon they were at the scene. And so that's what you're up against when you're involved in a tractor trailer accident. And so it's critically important that you get somebody on your side quickly that can engage in those same types of activities and send people out there to gather evidence. Recently we were retained in a tractor trailer incident that's received a lot of attention here in this area, involving a young lady that was tragically killed traveling down Highway 280 when a tractor trailer went right through a red light. She was coming out of a cross street. She had the green light, T-boned her vehicle. Unfortunately, she didn't stand a chance. She passed away. And in the course of handling that case, my partner Josh Wright has realized the importance of making sure that evidence is preserved. Cell phones are preserved because texting and driving is a problem. People use their cell phones. Preserving the tractor trailer in that incident so that experts can go out there and take a look at the tractor trailer, look at the suspension system, the braking systems, those types of things, to see whether it was mechanically working well at the time of the incident. So I just wanted to highlight those points in that regard. Do trucks have and are they required to have governors?
Required, not so much, but some trucks do, some trucks don't. And now the trucks that don't have governors, you can use some of the importance, as Carter was saying, in gathering evidence and preserving evidence. Most trucks that drive down the road, all trucks, are required to maintain logbooks. So they have to log in when they leave somewhere and when they get somewhere. So in the cases where a truck doesn't have a governor, you can use a logbook to kind of pinpoint and say, you know, they left point A at 8 o'clock and they got to point B at 10 o'clock. And some simple math can tell you that to get from point A to point B, they would have to be traveling X miles per hour.
Right.
So to answer your question, some do and some don't, but there's different mechanisms you can use to determine the speed that a car was going, maximum speed and minimum speed.
Yeah, there have been a lot of cases out there involving situations where the individual truck driver testified that he was going the speed limit as he traveled from Birmingham to Mobile, but his logbook reflected that he made it in 2 hours. Well, there's a great inconsistency there, and there's all kinds of things that truck drivers have done over the course of the years. Again, not all of them are doing it the wrong way. Most are doing it the right way, but there have been instances where fabricating logbooks has been a real issue. Now, some of that has been reduced or eliminated because of technology. A lot of these trucks now have an electronic system whereby the logs are kept automatically through an electronic system based on you cranking the vehicle and driving the vehicle. It automatically starts and it stops when you stop, and the GPS systems involved. Technology is so great right now that all of this is done electronic. So we've gotten away from what we used to have, the paper logbooks that were subject to fabrication.
From your experience or any sort of statistical data that's available, how prevalent is drug and or alcohol use in these accidents, in trucking accidents?
Well, there was a study that was done about a year ago. It came out and it actually showed that about 33% of truck drivers had at some point a detectable blood concentration of either psychoactive drugs or alcohol in their system. So it can be a very real problem, and you know, as Carter was saying earlier, it doesn't happen in all situations. Majority of the time, like 77% of the time, there's usually not any indication of drugs or alcohol in these truck driver systems, but it can be a problem on some occasions.
Yeah, and I think that those percentages are probably inflated a little bit. I can tell you in our practice, it doesn't happen all that often where you've got somebody that is under the influence of alcohol and or some type of drug at the time of the incident. And one thing that can be a little bit misleading about that is there's nothing wrong with taking a prescription drug while you're operating a tractor trailer. The problem is if you're taking a prescription drug that impairs your ability to operate the tractor trailer unit. So I think you could parse through that study a little bit. I don't think the percentages are that great, but it is still an issue. And one of the things that is out there that's important for everybody to know is that the blood alcohol content for a truck driver to be impaired based on the law is significantly lower than you and I. You and I, it's 0.08 blood alcohol content. For a tractor trailer driver, it's 0.02.
Right.
So it's basically, it's a much lower standard. If you get pulled over driving a tractor trailer rig, 0.02, you can be arrested and for DUI.
In working in the media, you work some odd shifts, and I remember working where you have to be at work. If you do a morning show, you got to be there like at 4 in the morning. And I remember thinking, why are truckers on the road? Have they been driving all night, or are they getting up early? And it just kind of begs the question of driver fatigue. Is that an issue? And is there any sort of regulation as far as the number of hours a driver should be behind a wheel every day?
Driver fatigue can become a big problem, and there are a number of federal regulations out there that require how much a truck driver can be on the road. Because as you were saying, some of these 3-4 o'clock in the morning, you see nothing but semi trucks out on the highway. It's not because they've been out there for 24 hours straight. Right. It's because they've been taking their required consecutive hours off so they can drive a certain number of hours on the road. Right. And the federal regulations kind of make a kind of a difference between a property hauler and a passenger hauler. In a property sense, they can drive a maximum of 11 hours after 10 consecutive hours off duty. Okay. And in a passenger capacity, if they're transporting passengers over the road, they can drive for a maximum of 10 hours after having 8 consecutive hours of off-duty rest time. So when you're seeing these drivers, drive across the road at 3-4 o'clock in the morning, it's not because they've been, driving straight in from California on no sleep. It's because they've been taking those times those consecutive hours off so they can, drive for a maximum of 10 or 11 hours on.
And really, that's the purpose of the logbooks, to keep track of how much they've driven in the course of a day or a week. And so if they get pulled over and have to produce their logbooks, they can be checked for driving.
All right, time for us to take our final break of the evening. A few minutes remaining. If you want to join the conversation, we'd love to have you call, text, or send us an email. Also, you can find the firm on Facebook as well as Twitter. Stay tuned. The final segment of The Attorneys coming right up.
I'm Tyler Vale with the law firm of Hollis, Wright. As with any industry, it's important in the legal world to hire an attorney that is knowledgeable and has a track record of success. But with so many attorneys out there and so many different types of cases, how does someone decide the right lawyer to hire? In this week's Legal 411, we're answering the question, what should I consider in hiring an attorney? In-state versus out-of-state, big firm or little firm? Recommendations from friends or family? The internet, the phone book, or TV. With so many choices and so much information, it can be an overwhelming task trying to make the right decision. To complicate things, choosing a lawyer is an important and sometimes life-affecting decision and should not be taken lightly. So how do you select an attorney? Do your research. Look the firm up on the internet. Ask friends and family whether they know or have any experience with a specific firm. If you know any local lawyers, ask them about the reputation of the firms you may be considering. Call a local law office and ask if they are handling cases like yours. There's a good chance they can help you. But if they can't, they can always refer you to someone they respect who handles your type of case. And remember, ask questions face to face. Ask about their experience at handling cases like yours. How often someone from their office will be available to you, and what you can expect during the process. Please remember, your call, email, or text to the attorneys is free. All of us at Hollis Wright want to help answer your questions on real issues you face. Remember, a competent lawyer will respond to every question you send in. That's our pledge and promise to you.
Welcome back to our final segment of the attorneys for the evening. Just a few minutes remaining if you want to get that question in to us. When we went to break talking about trucking accidents, and it sounds like the cases are complicated. I would think there are experts involved in this to do with what you guys were talking about. So who picks up the tab for the experts needed in what sounds like it could be a pretty expensive endeavor?
It can be at times, and normally you'll have to get at least one or two experts involved in most of these cases. And what we do is we usually will front that cost, pay for the expert fee, whatever it might be, and then down the road, if we are successful and get a recovery, then those fees will come out of the judgment, and it's what's called a contingency fee agreement. So if you're in a truck accident and you are hurt and you want to be represented by counsel, you can set up a contingency fee arrangement, in which case you'll have to pay no money out of pocket, no upfront costs. That all comes out of the firm's expenses, and it's special like experts. And then, like I said, whenever a judgment is rendered, if we get a favorable judgment, then those fees and expenses will come out of the judgment, and the person who's the victim of the car accident or the trucking accident won't have to come out of pocket any expenses.
Yeah, the contingency fee arrangement is not unique with our law firm. Any firm that handles these types of cases is going to handle them on a contingency fee arrangement. And the easiest way, and the way I explain it to clients that are seeking our services, is that there are no circumstances in which you will ever receive a bill from our office to pay us anything out of your own pocket. The only way we get paid a fee for the services that we render, and the only way we get reimbursed the expenses that we advance on your behalf, is if we're successful for you, we resolve your case, we settle the case, we get a judgment, and then out of the funds that we get from the settlement or the judgment, we would then take a percentage of fee and we would get reimbursed the expenses that we've incurred. And the expenses can be significant. I mean, these cases can cost us anywhere from $50,000, $100,000 plus in expenses to litigate these cases due to the experts that we have to hire. Sometimes you have to hire an accident reconstructionist to reconstruct the accident to see whether or not the testimony is consistent with the forensics. Sometimes you have to hire an engineering or braking expert. If somebody's claiming their brakes weren't working, you got to have an expert to evaluate the brakes to make sure that they were working properly or to find out what went wrong. So the contingency fee agreement works incredibly well because of the fact that people are injured and they may not be going back to work, they're not earning money, they can't afford to pay somebody out of pocket. So that's the type of arrangement that firms like ours offers individuals.
And I would think it would be extremely beneficial to hire a firm that has experience doing this because of the complex nature of the cases as well.
Well, and not only the complex nature, there are a lot of aspects to these cases that recur from case to case.
Right.
I mean, in terms of what to ask for, what to seek from trucking companies, what to look at, a lot of those aspects are universally the same across the board. There are obviously unique aspects with any given case, but one case that's universal across the board involves the black box or the electronic control module that
Right.
you can get information on speed at the time of the accident. Did the truck driver brake at all? When did he brake? How fast? Was he going at the time of impact? A wealth of information can come from those black boxes.
Yeah, we are just about out of time, but time just enough for a final thought from the both of you. We'll start here with you, John.
Well, first and foremost, if you are ever in a trucking accident and you're injured, it's important to contact an attorney quicker, sooner rather than later. As we were saying earlier, they have these immediate response teams already in place to come in and take witness statements and, speak to police. And it's better to have someone on your side fighting to protect your rights sooner rather than later.
I think I would say this, that obviously the health and safety and getting medical treatment for the individuals involved in an accident is paramount. Take care of yourself first, but lean on family members. Lean on family members to do the homework in terms of maybe identifying a firm or two that has the experience to handle these types of cases. Have them gather the information, have them gather contingency fee agreements and things like that, so that when you do recover from your injuries, you're in a better position to decide who you want to represent you. You can act quicker. You can act with more information, and then you can make a decision to hire a lawyer, and they can then respond and start gathering information on your behalf.
Really helpful information tonight, gentlemen. Appreciate both of you being with us.
Good to see you.
Thanks so much. Good to see you guys as well. And always good to see you. We appreciate you joining us each and every Sunday night on The Attorneys as we wrap things up. How you can continue to get in touch with the firm of Hollis, Wright. They are at that email address, and we'll answer every email. So if you want to get in touch with them, you can also find them on Facebook as well as Twitter. We appreciate your time. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time right here on The Attorneys.
Thanks for watching The Attorneys, sponsored by Hollis Wright.